Testing, 1, 2.
Look, hey, when I ate,
Oh,
can you
yeah.
hear me now?
Oh,
Can you hear me a little bit?
yeah, we hear you good. Hear you good here. Just logged on. We got Becky Ochbachi, Doreen, Randy's in the house. All right.
Can you hear me now?
Oh, sound like Barry White. Sound
Oh
good,
man,
Chris.
cool.
Gonna slam today. Heck yeah.
Yeah.
I called Earl yesterday about a printer that we bought him or whatever, and mailing it to him. My email said it arrived. I just gave him the heads up, been on the lookout for it, but sounded like he wasn't gonna be able to make it today. So that's
Yeah,
all.
he's hey hi ya hey hi ya hey ya hi yo hey yo hey yo hey hi ya hey ya ya hey ya hi yo hey yo hey yo hey hi ya 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 hey hi yo hey yo hey yo Fort Beck Community College Ukiepino yo yo me too gashi dagush kashka yogi piano yo yo wata pevi hagik tabi ichachia ya bino hey yo hey yo hey ha ya hey ha ya hey ya hey yo hey yo hey yo hey ha ya hey ya yo hey ha yo hey yo hey yo hey ha ya hey ha hey ha ya hey ha ya hey ha ya hey yo hey yo hey yo Fort Beck Community College Ukiepino yo yo me too gashi dagush kashka yogi piano yo yo wata pevi hagik tabi ichachia ya bino hey yo hey yo hey ha ya hey ha ya hey ya hey yo hey yo hey yo hey ha ya hey ya yo hey ya hey yo hey yo hey yo hey ha ya hey ha hey ha ya hey ha ya hey ha ya hey ya hey yo hey yo hey yo Fort Beck Community College Ukiepino yo yo me too gashi dagush kashka yogi piano yo yo wata pevi hagik tabi ichachia ya bino hey yo hey yo hey ha ya hey ha ya hey ya hey yo hey yo hey yo hey ha ya hey ya yo hey ya hey yo hey yo hey yo hey ha ya hey ha hey ha ya hey ha ya Kali college unki epino yo yo me to gashi dagush kashka yogi piano yo yo wata pepe agik tabi ihachi ya pino hey yo.
Mitakuipi. Ishkeo, Chiankampi, Chantewa Stea, Yuhanapi, Chizapido. Elijah Hopkins, Emie, Wana, Chinja, Wakpa, Unspe, Wankantuya, Dechia, Daya, Heripido. Mitakuipi. Hello, relatives, again, and welcome to the Buffalo Chasers podcast. I'm Elijah Hopkins, and joined with me, as always, is Dekshi, Mr. Tommy Christian. We're streaming at you live from Fort Peck Community College, nestled in the heartland of the Fort Peck Assiniboine Sioux tribes. We want to thank you for joining us here on the Zoom webinar for the podcast. We're at week number 27, I believe. I want to thank all of you joining us on the live stream on Facebook. And before we get started here with our discussion here, our weekly hour-long discussion, I would ask Nakshi if you would share a prayer with us, get us started in a good way, if you could, please.
Oh, oh man, it's a beautiful thing. Every time I hear that song that we play prior to anything that we get into on this virtual experience, it's really sets me back, or it doesn't set me back. It takes me back to my time of growth. And my older brother, Robert Forstar, he was the chief of the Assiniboine Haudenosaunee, the Red Bottom people, and he really graciously helped me understand the importance of my own personal walk on this red road. So it just takes me back to that. And every time he sings, one time we was at a burial, and he was singing the burial side song, and after he got done, and of course I was trying to help him as well as I could, but I told him after the song was sung, I said, Chie, I'm gonna bust you right in the face. He looked at me. He said, What you gonna hit me for? I said, every time you sing that song, you make me cry. But it was just a little inside joke with both of us. But it really brings out the emotions in you once you understand how and why these things are done and said. And so, in that understanding of this integrity and how important it is to us as First Nations people, we are people that believe we're indigenous to the North American continent based on our stories of origin. And of course, in that, we always tried to maintain that integrity when we do this new stuff like that. We're adapting, we're adjusting. And again, so if you'll just pity me, my relatives, we'll go to this creator, this higher power, this spiritual energy, whatever you may refer to as this belief system that you maintain in a good way, that you help me out at this time. Aha, hey, tu kashela wakantanka tadea doba unchi makana makaina. Na kumitaki epi wanagi makpea ktaya ke hocho ka kta hiopo. Unshia ke nitaki epi wayanza pi unchi makao mani. Ogi achana unshia ke nitaki epi unchi makao mani chante ioksicha. O ichakiapo ushi wichalapo. Tu kashela na wakantanka Kiksiapo mitaki api winuk chalapi wichak chalapi na wakaya japi hukshila winchin chalapi na kushkapi na wikoshkapi chanku washte unk upi wichozani unk upi o wichakiapo ushi wichalapo. Tukashila wakantanka ambetukile na ha kiksiapo mitaki api agichita oyate kizuya ektana. Wichasha bile wiapile. Chanku washte unk upi o wichakiapo ushi wichalapo. Tukashila na wakantanka. Oyate oyasi chanku luta aga omani o wichakiapo ushi wichalapo. Ho mitakie oasi. Wamakashka oasi.
Well, good, Chiche. So Midakipi, week 27 of the Buffalo Chasers podcast, still going strong here. again every Thursday from 3 to 4 p.m. On social media, we are still doing weekly drawings. So a couple announcements that we do want to make here for the week 26. So last week's episode of the podcast, we have a couple items that we wanted to give away with a couple winners here. The first item is a Kindle Fire tablet. Kindle Fire tablet, and that the winner of the Kindle Fire tablet is Tahanshi Chris, 4-star. Congratulations.
All right.
Winner, chicken dinner.
I think that guy won already. That guy must be stocking up.
Double dipping that guy, man. Then we also have a Cho jacket that Nekshi is rocking over there. The Buffalo Chasers Letterman jacket, as I like to call it. And the winner of that is none other than Miss Chalissa Owen Sear.
All right.
Winner, chicken dinner. Congratulations, Chalissa. And Chris, you can redeem your prizes at Student Services, the War Eagle Vision building at the main campus. If I believe both of you are out of Wolf Point, so if you need, we can have a staff member deliver them over to Wolf Point, or just give us a call during work hours, 406-768-6370, and we'll let them know that you're the winners, and they can mail them out to you if need be. But just a little FY congratulations to both of you. So then again, so anybody that's joining us on Facebook, how you get your name in the hat for that weekly drawing is just give us some Facebook love. Give us a like, a share, a comment, and then we'll post announcements the following week. So I don't know about you, Next, but I feel a little lost without Dekshi Earl. Boy, I was kind of used to him rocking it, and he always has some very some good contributions. Really appreciate him, but he'll probably definitely be back with us next week as some biz to take care of. So, but it's all good. You know, we'll typically we have a topic for the week, and but which maybe a general discussion unless you had something up your sleeve here as far as content. But we always, for the viewership, if you're brand new, we're always trying to keep things related to mental health and culture. And then Nekshi here is just a wealth of resources, connections to culture, and so we always kind of look to him to kind of lead the discussion in however it pertains to mental health. So whatever you think there, Nekshi.
Oh, hechitulo, ha mitaki epi iska, ushia kena, apetukile ushmala omakiana agna gupta, ho hecha jemita wamni shage doba imachia pihe, naha ambetukile michante tawagalake. How? All my relatives, again, welcome to our podcast for week 26 or 27, whatever it is. It's one of those, but we've been rocking and rolling here for a little while, and we got a lot of things that we've shared. If you need to look up some of our history, we're going to archive all that information, put it together, but it's on YouTube. Just you'll get all the podcasts we've had, and you can kind of catch up. But, with that all being said, I spoke a little bit about the importance of representation of not only myself, but my family, and of course my tribe, and my community, my city, my state, and as it relates to things that are going on in our language, we say wola chota mak asit omni. That's a kind of representation of that peace all over the world, all over the universe. And when we put it in that perspective, we start understanding and gaining from a personal view in hopes of opening and widening our own worldview, that it's something that it's a very hard thing to do to represent that sort of an attitude, to have the courage and the bravado or the bravery to express your emotions, such as love, being able to exercise these virtues like compassion, sharing, caring, generosity, patience. And that's what we're wishing to do here. And the reason why it's really important is because of times like this. It has come at us from a different direction. That direction is referred to as COVID-19. And man, I hate to see a COVID-20, but at the same time, it's affording us an opportunity to heal from the inside out or even strengthen from the inside out as it relates to our ability not to take for granted our capabilities, but our ability to exercise a lot of those virtues as much as we can throughout the day. I know we're not going to always have an opportunity to do all of them, but the ones that we can hit on, man, we should just do them in a sincere, committed manner. Again, not for our sake, but for the sake of our family, our tribe, and our communities, whatever we're representing there. And in this case, it would be the Buffalo Chasers Society. And again, we kind of miss Chie Earl Bullhead, my older brother there, in regards to that. And then, of course, I mentioned Earl before he even came on. I mentioned my brother Robert, my dad Max, all of these folks, Kenny Ryan, all these individuals, these old people, these that I hold dear to my heart. They graciously helped me to understand the importance of the growth that I'm speaking about right now. Having that courage to step up and to be strong enough to be representative of who you are, not necessarily who we are in respects to that, but who you are, and following that in a good way, because like this all makes sense when you put it together. When we speak our language, it's a language of respect. What we mean is what we say, and what we say is what we mean, and there's no sarcasm in that. And so that's why in one of the podcasts I prayed uh, in English so that you'll understand how we pursue life. And that usually is a prayer that the manner in which we go forward from the beginning, when we get up in the morning, and then right before we go to sleep, we share a prayer again. So our day is filled with this attitude of respect throughout the whole day, and being conscious and aware of that, the differences, that diversity that exists out there, and be able to kind of flow with it, kind of go with the flow, so to speak. But in respects to that, and I think it's very important to understand some of the navigation one has to do through this thing that we call life, the ups and the downs. And sometimes it gets extreme, and when we get influenced by outside uh, drugs or alcohol, our biorhythms peak, and then they peak down, they peak up, and they peak low. But when we're kind of open-minded and respectful and trying to, they kind of just, they have valleys and they have tops, but they're not as extreme, eh? And so that's how we want to kind of deal with things, and we want to be able to understand the importance of this value of teaching. And again, as we look inwardly, not wishing to look outwardly and blame anything or make excuses for anything that happens to us, but look inwardly and take that responsibility for being a human being, as well as trying to be a human doing. Eh? And as it's cliche-ish as that sounds, that's a very important reality as it relates to maintaining the integrity. Like me, I maintain the integrity of the Lakota, Dakota, and Nakona people, because that's what I represent in the manner in which I live. But at the same time, as individuals, I have a political agenda, I have a personal agenda, but I don't contaminate that into this general overview of what I represent as a whole person, eh? And again, I'm very political, but yet I don't want that to contaminate or cloud what it is that as to who I am as an individual. That's why I share with you uh, my Assiniboine name is Eagle Claw, but they also refer to me as Four. So I carry two names in that arena. And so it's representation of that name that I want to bring respect, maintain that dignity and honor, so that I can maintain that and sustain that integrity of who I am as an individual. Eh? And so in that, remember that show Dances with Wolves? That guy stole that horse, and they'll be making songs about us, and he breaks his arm. So we don't get too carried away about some of our accomplishments, but we definitely appreciate the energy or the support that has helped us to get to these points in our lives and these milestones that we've achieved. And that's on an individual basis. That's not something that we should standardize as it relates to comparing ourselves to others, because when we look inwardly, we understand the importance of recognizing our dedication and our purpose in life that was formulated for us even before we were on this earth. And so when we come from that spiritual energy, the creator, the higher power, whatever you refer to it as, the spiritual energy, had your life all formulated. And in that, then it's not something that is dictated to you. It's something that affords you an opportunity to really pursue if you choose to. And once you develop the strength and the courage from within, from the inside out, and you become strong enough, then you can step up and understand. Like my dad would tell me, if we were all the same, it'd be so damn boring, which is true. And so that diversity that exists out there is really something that we should look forward to dealing with, eh? And then, of course, finding out how well we can deal with that. So when we talk our language, when we mean what we say and we say what we mean, you'll find a lot of teasing to see where individuals are kind of on a scale, not a judgment scale, not a critical scale, but just kind of see where they're at, see how much strength they carry. And the teasing that we do is never malicious. It only goes so far. It means no malcontent on anybody or anything. Doesn't mean to be personal or hurtful, but it's meant when we tease to strengthen you. One of the things that is of primary concern to the men is we never talk good about our brother-in-laws. That's just a given rule. You can't say nothing good about your brother. If something goes wrong, you blame it on your brother-in-law. Well, he didn't know what he was
Wasn't
doing.
for
He went,
him.
yeah, yeah, and see, but we mean no malintent or no maliciousness on anybody. That's just what we do. Because again, your brother-in-law is the one that you pick on, and with that understanding, they accept it, eh? And then, of course, guess what? You're his brother-in-law, so guess what? He doesn't have nothing good to say about you either. And it's just a good little thing that we do amongst ourselves. And then all of these things that we're learning as we go, we don't necessarily speak like the men don't speak to their mother-in-laws, and the ladies don't speak to their father-in-laws, and that's an indication of respect. That's something that you come, and it's not to be mean or hateful. It's just you're respecting them. And when we do wish to convey our intentions with our mother-in-law, or let's say you're in a room and you say, "My son, could you tell your grandma uh, her son-in-law is really hungry?" You don't talk directly to her, eh? And your son would do that for you, and she can hear what you said, but out of respect for her, that hierarchy, if there is one, I don't know if there really is one, but it's just an indication of respect. And again, you don't create any problems with that non-communication, but yet you still get your point across,
Question for
and
you.
that huh,
Question.
sure.
What about have you observed that practice? Like, let's say you have a a wife from a Cree reserve in Canada. Do they observe those types of Ocheti Shakoi
Yeah,
Uchoka? Is that a similar type of thing with Cree or Anishinaabe, or is
yeah,
that kind
yeah.
of like oh,
Well, that's a good question, Toshka. And yes, because the lady that I was talking about, my son's grandparents, uh, it would be considered my mother-in-law, but I don't look at her like that. But I respect the position she has. In in my entire time that I spent with my kids' mother, which was 11 years, was I think I've only said 4 words to her, and that was because it was on the phone. Hello, is Kalinda there? That was it. Eh? That's
oh,
the 4 words that I've ever never, and so the Cree maintain that. That's a very traditional family that I was involved with. My children's mother, and they're very traditional, and they respect that. And so when I would go to the father-in-law and mother-in-law's house, I would go in there, And then all the sisters to my kids' mother, they kind of take on that perspective of like they're my wives as well, eh?
Mm.
And so they make sure I'm fed, they make sure I'm taken care of, but they really tease me. Mom, Tommy wants a kiss. You better come and hug him. They'd say stuff like that. No, it's just kind of embarrassing, eh? But because you can't defend yourself. But no, those things. And again, when they tease you like that, especially for our non-Indian relatives, if you go to a gathering or something like that, and an Indian guy is teasing you, there's no maliciousness. If they're teasing you, they're including you in the mix, eh? They're including you in the whole process, that circle. But if they're not teasing you, oh, you must have said or did something that kind of they won't tease you, and they kind of. But if they tease you, oh man, they're kind of bringing you into the mix. Here, come on, get tease back, do something, see how strong you are, challenging you are, testing your strength or your courage. In other words, your character, eh? So you kind of go like that. But I just wanted to add, like when we tease our brother-in-laws, like I got a few brother-in-laws out there that I would tease lots because I'm an announcer. But before I tease them, I would always go and talk to them, and I would gift them with something, a belt buckle. I've given away belt buckles and hat bands and coffee, tea, a meal. Just because I tell them I'm gonna tease you now, you know that. So again, they understand no animosity, no maliciousness, just outright, straight up Indian cultural perspective. So you give them something, and that maintains that relationship, and so in that good way. So those sorts of things that we're learning as we go. It's not so much an Indian thing per se, hey? It's a human being thing. It's our ability to develop these things. Because remember, way back in one of these podcasts, I mentioned that my father had told me that there's as many ways to go to God as there is blades of grass. And as First Nations people, we respect every one of those ways because we recognize, based on our observation, your belief system, your faith, the Wowachida, that's going to make you a better person if you follow it, eh? If you maintain that ethical, moral value system for the sake of your decision making process, you're going to be a better person for that. And the First Nations people really respect that. Then when you talk about the Anishinaabe, like I come from a matriarchal society, but I'm the one that sits there and does the ceremony because that's the man's responsibility in a matriarchal society. Eh? If you go to the Anishinaabe, oh man, it's kind of hard to take because uh, all the women are the ceremonial people over there. Hey, it's reversed, and they're the ones that carry the bundles. They're the ones that's the spiritual people. They're the ones that kind of interpret what's going on and all that stuff. And so it's kind of, oh, I went to a ceremony one time and the women were running it, and I said, oh man, it was hard for me to take. But once I got over my cognitive dissonance, if you will, for lack of a better word, then I was able to appreciate where they were coming from. Eh? And then when I talk about matriarchal systems, I just speak about the Dakota and the Lakota because the Nakona are patriarchal. And how you understand that is whatever band your father is from, that's where you go as children. You go with his band, or you pick up his language, you pick up his ceremonial ways, his belief systems, however he does. That's the patriarchal way from the Nakona. And a lot of people can't understand the difference that goes there, eh? But like in my way, like my mother was Lakota, so I try to speak the Lakota language, eh? Because I'm matriarchal. But I also understand the importance of Dakota and Nakona as well. Like my grandma was a Nakona, a Haudenosaunee actually, and they were good friends with the chief there, my brother Robert Forstar, and they come from Willow Bunch, and that was George and Adele Lacane. But they were very closely had good relations with the chief. They used to go to his house. My grandpa was a singer, and she'd always tell Robert that I come back every year because I'm one of you. She'd say, I'm a Hude Shabi. I said, how? So again, it kind of all fits together, and these things not to get mixed up, but to understand the respect that we can share with one another with this open mindedness, without this regulatory authority holding over, being held over our heads based on policy and procedure, but just a very good spiritual aspect as it relates to how we can do things in a respectful way. So that's what this whole thing is about. And especially during this COVID time, we have an opportunity from the internal parts of our support system, our family, especially our family. We spend a lot of family time together now, and so we start recognizing the support they provide for us rather than taking them for granted and saying, "You're supposed to do this, you're supposed to do that." No, they're not supposed to do nothing if they don't want to. But you start recognizing these little aspects of how they support you, and the kids behave. When you're working, they'll kind of behave to a limit, but not all the time. But at least they recognize that, and so they support you in that way. In the man's case, the wife doing whatever she can to kind of take the burden off you and kind of relax you, cook you good meals and all that good stuff. Not saying that that's the duty of a woman, but that's a responsibility of a female in our cultural way of life, in the Lakota way of life, because we're matriarchal. In the Nakona way of life, and again, it would become even more so, even more honorable for that lady to cook the meal for the man of the house. Now, ceremonial wise, you'll find that in the Nakona ceremony, the women prepare the food, but the men serve it. Eh? So that's just little aspects that you recognize, that we look at this matriarchal perspective and this patriarchal perspective, and identify the differences that are there. And then the men are very, very supportive. And then you'll find that the men in the Assiniboine way of life are totally in the ceremonial men. They'll do this, do that, they'll have the pipe. And in the ceremony, in the Nakona way, the woman cannot touch a man's pipe. And a lot of women that don't understand that get kind of confounded or even angry about that. What, they think they're better than me? No, 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 no. We're holding them in high regard. I carry a Assiniboine pipe, and no woman has ever touched it, because it's out of respect for them, because we revere women so highly that we hold them in high regard, that if a woman wanted to become like a man, she'd actually be putting herself down to a man's level, because we hold them so high. You see? And those are some of the characteristics or dynamics of our structured way of living, from a tribalistic or communal process, is that we need to do that. We need to live like that. We need to do these things in the, like in the Sioux Dakota Lakota way. I hate saying Sioux anymore, but in the Dakota Lakota way, the women can actually touch the pipe, smoke the pipe, be a wapia wiapi. They can fix things with ceremony and all that. And in our way of life, they can do that. But at the same time, they also are held in high regard. They also are revered. And sometimes when they want to get up and speak, oh man, the men do the talking. Eapaha, that's a man's role. The ceremony in itself is kind of like a man's role, because the woman that's doing the ceremony would always speak to the Eapaha, and he would speak for her on her behalf. So just kind of put that in perspective as well. But in these new days now, they're starting to make adjustments to where they're starting to have women speak. And oh man, it's a little different thing. It's not wrong. Don't get me wrong. It's not wrong. It's just that we have to really be aware of the responsibilities of the man and the female and the male in that regard. And we don't want to emasculate the men, if you know what that means. But we like to hold them in high regard as well, so especially like we spoke a little about that last time with Earl about nacha, itancha, all these good things, the hunga. Those are men's roles that we've taken on. But now, as you look around Indian country, a lot of women are stepping up into those roles of men. But and again, you'd have to be really understanding of the respect that is due there, because we don't say they can't. If they want to, they do. But the women would actually, when they put themselves in a man's role, would actually be bringing themselves down to the level of a man, which is fine. But if that's what they choose to do, but they need to maintain that 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 highness that they deserve, that respect. And then we come to understand the importance of why I'm speaking like this is because the key is the structure of the family. It all comes from family, the tiwahe, who lives with you, and then you go from that to the tioshpae. Your relatives are the ones that live with you. The tioshpae is the ones that live away from you but are extended family as well, be it by blood or by hunka, the adoption ceremony or whatever. And then you understand that, and then that family also has a representation of watching after your dignity and your honor as well, if you recognize them as tioshpai or tiwahe. And so that makes it even more serious as in regards to who do you represent, who you from, because a lot of the old people, some of the first things they'll say is they won't ask you who you are. They'll ask you, who are your parents? Who are your grandparents? And then from your grandparents and your parents, they'll recognize who you are. And they'll say, oh yeah, I remember that. And then let's get into the big stories. And that's how you develop this rapport with the old people. Let them know who your parents are and your grandparents are, and then they can relate to that. And then the connection will be made through that. But that just helps us do all that. But from all that, if you're not comfortable who you are as an individual, you don't know why you are or what you are, then it becomes hard for you to even express any ability to be compassionate, empathetic, loving, caring, sharing, anything like that. It would be hard for you to do that. And so, in that, when we get caught up in this individualism, I, me, my thing, as opposed to the individuality, us, we, and them, we lose sight of our representation of your tiwahe and your tioshpae, and that representation of your family, and of course that family structure. And you'll see that a lot of that has happened as it relates to what we refer to as learned behavior. We were taught to be the way we are today based on forced assimilation. Kill the man, save the Indian, or jeez, save the man, kill the Indian, sort of a thing. I had it backwards. I'm sorry. I got to represent. And so you see how that whole learned behavior, that forced assimilation, a lot of our culture was attempted to be taken away from us, but there's those that hung on to it. And we think we have it tough now. Think how tough they must have had it way back in the day. Your great 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 grandfather, your great 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 grandmother, or whatever the case may be, in maintaining this family structure as well as the cultural value systems, the understanding of the protocol, and maintaining the integrity of that, and through their way of life. And because it was against the law, to believe the way we believe was actually against the law, and they outlawed it. And a lot of times people aren't understanding the difference between religion and spirituality. And they even think that when Indian people live their way of life, that's a religion. It's not. And it's kind of indifferent to me when people refer to our belief system as a religion, because we don't have a doctrine per se. We live based on natural law, and there's a protocol there. Whereas the Christian religion is based on a doctrine, and they follow that doctrine, and which is fine with us. So it's kind of like that, and it's kind of where I think as we get into these next few weeks that we really need to understand with some sense of clarity where we're wishing to go. We're not sharing these stories or these things just arbitrarily and just not making fun of who and what we are, but we're wishing to sustain an attitude that would be representative of those that live here on the Fort Peck, uh, Assiniboine and Sioux reservation, Indian and non Indian, because we become more aware of ourselves. And once we become more aware of ourselves, we can reciprocate the respect of each other ways of life. And I think we do that already, but we don't accentuate it as much as we could or should for the sake of the growth of our children. See that enhancement and that enrichment? See how that goes, Toshka? You got a question? Look like you got something you want to ask.
Oh no, no. I'm just jotting down some notes here. There's just a lot of good information that we've covered over the course of our 26 weeks here. And I was just making some notes. I don't really have any specific questions, but um, if any students on the call have any questions, on the Zoom webinar call, just put them in the chat. But you know, when I listen to Next Talk, there's so much rich information, and I think there's just a tremendous need to try and capture our Nakon Ish Dakod Uyukcha, like the way that the Indian people think. Um, so when I really appreciate the perspective that he has, and then even I was just kind of thinking, my mind was drifting a bit when he was talking about next year, talking about how like when the older people ask you who you are, your family,
Yeah.
it's really cool to listen to some of them. I remember listening. There was a Jackson family over in Wolf Point, Fraser area, but one of them, I asked him who my grandma was. I was talking to him, and here I learned a whole story from this. She's now
Yeah.
passed,
Yeah.
15, 20 years ago, about my one of my great grandmas that they were at a ceremony, and and they did like a little mini giveaway, and it was really cool to kind of hear that. I never would have heard that if she wouldn't have asked that question. We wouldn't have had that
Yeah.
dialogue.
Yeah.
Those are the things that I think elders, they remember.
Yeah.
They like those type of connections. But no, that was the only thing I was gonna bring
Yeah.
up.
And the thing of it is, oh man, let me see how, like um, that representation of who we are. A lot of times we'll get this attitude from our young people. I'm a grown ass man. They kind of say stuff like that. We didn't say you weren't, man. According to your age, I guess if you act your age, and I wouldn't have a problem with that. But one of the things that it helps us to understand is the ability for that maturity to take place based on our teachings, and and that was probably Gladys Jackson that you heard that story from. Oh, Gladys, she was really quite the lady. She's one of our judges in the past and did served on our council, and she was a very highly respected lady and very voiceful, classic Assiniboine woman. And she had a lot of teachings, a lot of good things to share. Many people went to her and asked her about this and that because she come from the Jackson family, who had a very strong foundation to the Haudenosaunee people, the Assiniboine people that lived here from since it started. But anyway, getting back to what I was talking about, in that representation of who you are as an individual, like the college here gives out free tuition, free books, free schooling, education like that, and people always put it in a conditional basis. Well, what do you want back? No, you to live a good life, and we give out food cards. Well, what do you want back? No, man, just want you to eat, you know, and you got to. I think one should, when you get strong enough, recognize um, that unconditional way in which the college is going forward. This $1,000 you're getting for attending this, that onus is not on the college, it's on you. That was given unconditionally based on your ability to sign up and be the first 30 on that and then get accepted. And so the onus is upon the individual that chooses to accept that money. And if you want to give something back, fine. If you don't, that's you don't get the other 500 at the end, but you still got 500. You didn't steal it. It's something unconditionally that was given to you because you wanted to sign up for this. So it's on the individual themselves that would like to start this healing process and be representative of their family to bring that dignity and honor to that name, maintaining and sustaining that integrity of who they are. And if your behavior is such, and people say, "Oh, you know, that guy signed up, took a $500 and he took off," hey, well, we're not going to roll over and die because of that. But yet, that's an opportunity for those that signed up to really understand what is going on here. We're sharing that with you. We're affording you an opportunity to kind of make life easier for yourself because of COVID-19. We'd like for you to get comfortable and say, hey, you don't have to earn this. There's no conditions on this. There's no get your biggest bang for your buck sort of thing involved in this. You get what you want. And that brings me to a point that in long ago, when people would share stuff, when you hear lots about giveaways, what they would do is they would tie all these things up in a sheet or a bundle, they'd call it, and they tie it and then they take it out to the front and say, okay, from the family from Fort Belknap, you come on over. You got the family like to share these things with you. You can come and take this bundle and take it back to your camp. And that was their giveaway, eh? And the family from Fort Belknap come and get the bundle and it'd be all tied up in a bundle. And this great big old sheet would be tied up, and you take that, drag it back to your camp, and you wouldn't open it up till you got back to your camp, and then you'd open it up, and then you'd find what they referred to as staples in there, eh? You'd probably have lard, sugar, coffee, bacon, hamburger, potatoes, baking powder, flour, you know, all these, what they refer to as staples, tea, stuff like that, that can be traveled with, eh? And they'd give that away. They wouldn't give money per se, but they'd give staples because they knew everybody needed these things. And then there there'd be, maybe there'd be a rifle in the bunch, you know, just for the sake of being able to go and hunt, or a pistol to kind of protect yourself, whatever the case may be. But they were respecting the visitors in that way. And so, and then when then when the people from Fort Belknap went back to their camp and opened it up, guess what they did? They would take some of this stuff, not and just keep it to themselves, to their neighbors, the guys that were camping right next to them. Hey, here, take some of this. Here, take some. And you see how that all went all the way around. And so it wasn't just giving to that particular one family, because that family would share it as well. And so in that, they were exercising that virtue of generosity in a good way. And so that's how it's going. So the onus of this $1,000 that you're wishing to receive, there's no conditions on it. There's an opportunity for you to understand the food cards that you get. Hey, we're not telling you what to buy. We're just hoping you buy something and get and feed yourself with them. That's the most respectful thing you can do to another individual, is feed them. Hey, that's why we do that. That's why there's a lot of understanding of making sure your visitors are fed. Eh? I'll share a little story with you. You know, up here in the Dakota way here on Fort Peck, when a visitor comes to our house, we always feed them first, eh? And then after we eat and get full, and then we sit down, and we visit and all that. Well, down south, the way they do it is they wait, they visit first, and then they feed, and then after you get through eating, then you take your watecha and you go home. You just get up and go home. That says your meeting is done. Well, anyway, this old man from down south was up here visiting, and he went to go visit this old guy, and he wanted some information from him about a treaty or something like this, or some dates or all this good stuff. So this guy from the south came and he sat down at his table, and right away this visitor came in. So this old man, he went together, got whatever he could, put it down, put it on a plate, and put it in front of him. And so the old guy, Wow, he drank the coffee and he was sitting there, he was eating, he ate his food. After he got done, he got up and he left. And this old guy from here, huh, maybe that's all he wanted was to eat it because he didn't stay and visit. And see, the two different ways they didn't understand it, until finally it happened about 3 or 4 times. And then finally the old guy from the south said, hey, I want to ask you something. He said, what do you want to ask me? He said, how come when I come here you all feed me and then I got to go home because and we don't visit? He said, well, how come you get through eating, you get up and you leave? You're supposed to stay here and visit. He said, no, we at home we eat and then we go home. That means we're done, so I just go home. He said, no, up here, we feed you first and then we visit. So they had a big laugh. But see, in that process, if we don't communicate our differences, we're not going to have an ability to really respect them. So that's an example, just a little story in itself on how these things work. And so when that ownness comes to you and you expect something, sometimes it's not always the way you think it is. So you got to ask a question. You got to ask why. And I'm sharing this information about that $1,000 sign up thing, about this leadership thing, so we can accept the fact that there's an opportunity for us to become mature. There's an opportunity for us to become responsible. There's an opportunity for us to represent not only myself, but my family, my tribe, my people. You see how that works? And so it all takes place, but yet it's up to you as the individual to understand the importance of that responsibility of being a human being, and doing a human doing sort of a thing. And so that's where this natural law precipitates from, and the values of it kind of extend out. So people will hopefully not be told how to live, what to do, but they can observe it based on the way you live. See? And that was the problem. Those two guys, they were observing and they just respected that. They didn't want to tell one or the other. And finally, about 3 or 4 times, I'm like, I'm tired of you coming over and just eating my food and leaving. What do you want? But they had a big laugh. It was quite, and it became that story. And so in that, as we do these things, when we represent, there's so many different things that we can bring to the circle, bring to the center, and represent our own as an individual. Remember, I said I have a political agenda, I have a personal agenda, but I respect the circle, the others, by not conveying that to them because I don't want to impose or infringe on their right. Because again, that political agenda, that belongs in another arena, not one like this. You see how that goes? And so that's how you would approach ceremony as well. You see? And so it's quite a beautiful way to really participate, involve yourself, and rid your mind of all these different policies and procedures. And it's got to be done this way, and it's got to be done that way. My dad told me, my son, if you go somewhere and they ask you to help, you help, and whatever, however much you can. He said, but never tell them what to do. I said, why is that, my dad? He said, because a lot of the guidance and the direction that we receive as it relates to the protocols that we're dealing with at ceremony comes from the spiritual aspect of who we are. And you weren't sitting on the hill with that guy or that woman when they received what it is that they were told to do. And so they're doing it according to their dreams. But if you are asked to help as much as you can, but don't criticize and judge. And so we kind of do that, Is that cool or what?
Yeah, another cool thing, I think I've heard you guys talk about it. I was listening to a speaker the other day, and that they were talking about this idea of, you only take, you don't use someone that's given to you. Maybe that pertains into like, especially a ceremonial context, but like, Washichu Yuchchan, it's like it's okay to just take things, like, I don't know if that's like materialism or the individualism type of perspective. Not saying that's wrong, right? But like, just because we talk about differences in that term you use, cognitive dissonance, we have, especially because we have students from different cultures that have different perceptions of value systems, and sometimes they might, like you're talking about, like with the two old men,
Yeah.
even though they're different tribes, they're both tribal people, but even Indian, non-Indian, some of our students, they might not have the it's I think maybe respecting the perspectives of the culture, to have it so that they can have a better experience. Not to tell them that one's better than the other, but it's more
Yeah.
to like have a more of an enriching experience during your time here. I want
Do.
students to feel like how to have like a good experience when they come here, and then when they have the opportunity to possibly go to one of our ceremonies, as a participant to observe, you
Yeah.
know. And so I think that's like a super helpful thing. I think that our students that are on the call could maybe take away from it. It's and Earl brings this up a lot too. Like he's not slow. He's just very careful with his words.
Yeah. Yeah. Deliberate. Yeah.
He's very deliberate. And I've talked to him on the phone. He likes to joke. In fact, he told me the other day, he's like, tell Tommy, not be flicking cigarettes out the window. It's dry outside. Yeah, I'll let him know. But he has that side of him. But it's a good, like you're saying, example of cultural differences of how to really mean what you say. And he thinks things through. And so sometimes I think the perception is like, oh, Indians are they're a little slow, a little backwards. They're just very thoughtful. They're very polite.
Stoic.
Yeah, restored. And I think that's a kind of a misconception, but at the same time, what we're offering here, what we're trying to offer, it's yours too. So we want to accept these gifts, as you talk about, whether it's food card, whether it's a stipend for being a part of this society. And we're doing our best to build. We have a conversation, students behind the scenes about how to develop the leadership program and this platform that we got. So it's evolving, that's for sure. And I think as we move forward, we'll continue to hopefully create more avenues and possibilities. Like I know probably next week, or if not the week after, we'll try and gather with a feed to try and have that discussion with like Earl and some of those other individuals. We just got to nail down a date is all. But stuff like that, I think is tying in, like what you're saying, Unc, about the community with the college and the students. How do we link them together culturally and respectfully? And I think that's, definitely what you're trying to do, help us out with, is to approach it that way.
Yeah. And see, too, Toshka, we're not in a hurry. A lot of times get impatient. We want this, we got to do this, we got to do. And, I get some conversations within my little circle is that, Tommy, when are you guys going to do your next podcast? When are you going to? I said, well, it's every Thursday, man. Oh, I can't wait. I like listening to you guys talk, and it's amazing how that is. And again, like I see one question here from Becky and about that young man who understands the history of some of the atrocities that were inflicted on us for the sake of capitalistic imperialism, let's say. Not to get political, but to help that young man understand that he doesn't necessarily need to grow up to be a Native American, but just to be a spiritual person. And it's different. Okay? See, that's the difference. Is we're not religious, but we're very spiritual as it relates to our protocol, which is based on natural law. And everybody, and that's total inclusion. So with that, Becky, I just share with you that he doesn't have to want to be a Native American as much as he could be a very open-minded spiritual individual with his growth. And that's what we're doing. We're wishing to plant seeds and not to create sides like it's going on now. That's that political agenda. They don't understand. We're like I just want to share this real quickly. So, and I know we got a few minutes, but a lot of people ask me, Tommy, why do you wear a cowboy hat? And I said, I don't know. I'm scared of horses, so I don't know, but it looks good. No, I'm a cowboy from way back. But in reality, amongst the Indian people, especially the Lakota and the Dakota, Nakona, and the Cheyenne and the Arapaho, there was a time when all Indians wore just feathers in their hair and stuff like that. But after Peji Shlo Zuya, that greasy grass battle. The Indians start wearing cowboy hats because these are considered to us, especially the black cowboy hat, a trophy of war. Okay? And in that, that's recognizing what had went on there so that we don't forget what had went on there. Before that Peji Shlo Zuya, uh, we never wore boots. Now every Indian you meet's got cowboy boots on or a cowboy hat and all this good stuff. And they wonder, why are you wearing boots when you're supposed to be an Indian? Where's your moccasins? Well, the boots also are considered trophies of war from Pejishlo Zuya, that battle at the Little Bighorn. And then there's a drum, a bass drum, that is also considered a trophy of war that at the powwow they sing on. And there's certain songs that they'll sing. They call them, uh, what the heck are they called? Anyway, when they came back, uh, oh man, I forgot what Earl would know it anyway. But they would sing these songs uh, 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 that tells the story of what they did at the Battle of the Little Bighorn, and then sing them on those bass drums, and and that's considered a trophy of war. And people think we don't want to say that amongst our non-Indian relatives because they would think we're trying to be um, boisterous or brag. And no, we don't want to forget what happened there. You know, we don't want to forget the history and the stories that go with that. And it wasn't about who won or who didn't win, but at the same time, you'll find a lot of Indian people wear the black hat, and then you'll understand the history behind that. Because as it relates to the conflict that we had, we won, and the one that wins gets the trophies, right? So these are considered trophies of war in a very respectful way. You see what I'm saying? And so that's why a lot of our Indian folks will wear a cowboy hat or cowboy boots or sing on that type of a drum because of what they really are trophies of war. And so in that, not to bring any bad feelings to that representation, is they just keep it amongst themselves. And again, understanding the importance of the contentiousness that may create is if we can overcome that and realize the importance of that. Now it's just a way of life, and it's more common than not that Indians love the ability to wear their hat, but and because a lot of them are very good horsemen, okay, and just naturally so. But there's a lot of other reasons. But that's why I wear my hat and my cowboy boots, because I'm from Wood Mountain, Saskatchewan, Canada, where my origins are down from Cheyenne River, South Dakota, and I come from the Black Moon Tioshpae, who was a chief of those people right under Sitting Bull. And we have a strong relationship with Sitting Bull. My grandfather lived right next door to Sitting Bull after he came back to the States on the Grand River down in Fort Yates. And again, it's something that historically we once we understand our legacy based on our linealcy, then we can relate better to some of this representation in a respectful way. Again, remember, there's no maliciousness, there's no boisterous attitudes or any, no braggart, nothing like that. But there are war stories, there are historical stories of families, and like what the Toshka was saying earlier, this one lady was talking about a historical event that she remembered about his grandma, and that we maintain that. Then once you understand the winter count on these hides that we have, that depicts an event, a particular event during that winter that happened, that's how they counted their winters. How do you say it? Drink to kawo. Maniatu drink to kawo. That's how we ask, how old are you? Eh? How many winters are you? And so I would say, Shakpe Sam Shagloga Ma Shagloga. That's what I'd say. I'm 68. That's what I'd say.
Waniatu ni ota.
Oh,
Many
adjective.
went. Many went.
Pretty long in the tooth. But anyway, I wanted to say that much. My nephew, and I know that I've been kind of going on here, but I think going into the next few weeks, we need to prepare our minds and get that good mindset and enjoy this opportunity of the graciousness of the college, the sharing, the contributions to hopefully their family and being able to feed their own family, but at the same time taking some of that and sharing it with their neighbors. You see how that works? And you see the beauty in that whole exercise is, again, it come from because you're involved with the Fort Peck Community College Buffalo Chasers and you gain that understanding, and it's going to make you a stronger, better person as it relates to that ability to exercise those virtues in which we develop our character on. How? Mitakiasi.
Oh, all right. Wash day. Next he has some good words and appreciate all that he shares with us. And he's always got some good things to share, and even some good songs. That Eagle song, I've heard him, and it was just beautiful. He talks about that with the way Bob could sing. That one Eagle song he would always sing, living it up at the Hotel California, not the Buckhorn
Yeah,
karaoke night.
yeah.
But yeah, no, I
That
appreciate.
Eagle song.
Oh, Midake tomorrow I just got a text from the mass notification system at the college. No class tomorrow. Campus is closed. So you no need to show up. Employees as well. The campus is closed for tomorrow. Classes will resume April 5th, according to President Gourneau. So just an FYI there. And no virtual talking circle tomorrow. So we'll resume it all next week in a good way like that. Sounds like no more other announcements next. Are we good?
No.
Good. All right, watch that. Hamadakipi doksta kewachia kapikte peti washte yo hapo. Have a good day.
Oh.
Hey ha ya hey ha ya hey ya hey yo hey yo hey ha ya hey ya hey ya hey yo hey yo hey ha ya hey ya hey ha ya hey ya Fort Peck Community College, yo, me too, gashi, dagush, kashka, yogi, piano, yo, wata, pebi, hagi, ktabi, ichachi, ya, bino, hey, yo, hey ha ya hey yo hey yo hey ha ya hey yo hey ha ya Fort Peck Community College, yo, me too, gashi, dagush, kashka, yogi, piano, yo, wata, pebi, hagi, ktabi, ichachi, ya, bino, hey, yo, hey ha ya hey ya hey yo hey yo hey ha ya hey yo hey yo hey yo hey ha ya hey ya hey hachia ya bino hey yo hey yo hey ha ya hey ha ya hey ya hey ha yo hey yo hey yo hey ha ya hey ya yo hey ya hey ha yo hey yo hey yo hey ha ya hey ha hey ha ya hey ha ya hey ha ya hey ya hey ha hey yo hey yo hey yo Fort Peck Community College uki epino yo yo me to gashi tagush kashka yogi piano yo yo wata pepe agik tabi inhachi ya